Okay, since our district initiative is to come up with lesson objectives for we will and I will statements, let's go through our next DCA and see what the students will have to do and then come up with some objectives for it. Okay, so question 1. The graph below shows the favorite cakes of some students. Which statement best describes the number of students who picked vanilla cake as their favorite?
Okay, on these graphs, I always make sure we look at the key first, and then I have them put each picture, each image equals what. They put that beside each image on the graph, and if it's a half, they've got to decide what is half of whatever the key is.
Do you have them count on, like when they count vanilla, like 10, 20?
I have them go through and put 10 beside each hole.
Okay.
Then they've got to go back, so we're putting 10 beside each hole. There's 2 halves, so they've got to know what's half. Put your 5. Then on the opposite side of the image, they start counting by whatever. So counting by 10, 20, 30, then 5 more is 35.
Okay.
I make them circle, what are we looking for? Both in the question and on the graph. So we're looking for vanilla, circle vanilla in the question and then under the graph. And another thing is I have them put the total amount under each item. So 35 under vanilla, 20 under chocolate, and 40 under lemon.
Okay. All right, let's see what teak that is. Organize a collection of data with up to 4 categories using pictographs and bar graphs.
This is like a really short unit, it looks like, but we have a lot of days for it.
If only we could have took some of those days for whichever unit felt short last time.
This one that we're in. Now. I'm like,
I feel like we're rushing.
And like, I was looking at last year's macro plans, and we spent a whole week on addition strategies and a whole week on subtraction strategies.
And this week, or this year, we're doing...
This year we did a one day.
Hmm. Do you want to type the teak is 2.10b. Yeah. So we have 15 days to do this one. Wow.
Which normally in the past I feel like we've only had 10.
Yeah.
Because I remember it being...
I feel like we didn't spend too much time on this. As much as...
And I don't know if it's because this has in the past been right before Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe we just didn't have all of the 15 days and didn't want to come back after Christmas and test after we had
right.
Mm-hmm. Or if this is really, I want to say Teak's Resource doesn't have 15 days for this. But I could be wrong. I don't know. See? Teak's Resource only has 10 days for it.
Yeah.
And what does it say for the unit that we're in right now?
The unit number we're in right now, 10.
That just seems so short. Seems like there's so much information in
this one.
Because I think I don't know.
This is my favorite one to teach. I mean, I like geometry, but I love teaching.
The graphs, I do too.
You said 2.10.
2.10b. And the we will we will be able to organize a collection of data using pictographs. And then I will.
I feel like the test doesn't go in order of how we need to teach it. Does that make sense?
Which we don't have to. We can move that if we don't want to do this one first.
Yeah. I just feel like we need to
Ooh, down at the bottom of that, instead of putting them by day.
Like I did that one
yes.
time, that last time. And
Yeah.
Yeah, that way we see what we've got.
We can organize it the way we want it. Okay. Okay, so we will organize a collection of data. Because there's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 teaks.
Mm-hmm.
No, 4 teaks.
We got pictographs, bar graphs.
And 4, wow.
Okay.
Okay.
So I really think we should probably have at least 3 days with
For each.
pictograph.
Yeah.
And 3 days for bar graph.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Yeah.
maybe 3 days for word problems.
Mm-hmm.
That would give us 9 days.
Okay.
And then
a day for
dot plot, or what do we call that? Or is that
the drawing conclusions and making predictions. That's the one where it's like, if I don't remember what.
Oh.
If the pattern continues,
Continues.
what would be
Right.
week 6 or whatever,
Right.
or
Mhm.
Monday.
Yeah, we have some good smart notebooks
Right.
that we made for
Yes.
these.
So I can just, okay, so we can do 2.10b, which is organized data pictographs,
Mm-hmm.
and then we can do 2.10b. We will organize a collection of data using bar graphs,
Mm-hmm.
and that gets that teak, but it splits it up,
Mm-hmm. To picto
Mhm.
and bar graphs.
yeah, and then I feel like 2.10a kind of isn't its own lesson. You do it as you're introducing the pictographs and as you're introducing the bar graphs,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
Yeah,
that would
'cause
be
what-
part of understanding the bar graph.
Just reading it
Is
without
knowing
having to
the-
interpret.
The
Yeah.
integrals.
Yeah, knowing how to read it before interacting with it
yeah.
to solve.
I guess maybe we could
Put that
do-
one.
We could just do a day of them just like, how many is this? How many is that? How many is this bar? How many is that bar?
Or yeah, and creating them.
Before we create them.
Oh,
like
okay.
have them already created,
Uh-huh.
but then being able to explain that the length of the bar is
Okay.
14 because you know this bar goes all the way up to 14 and
Mhm.
over.
Okay.
So we could have a day of that.
So 2.
And we could also be covering the intervals. What are we counting by? Are we counting by 2s, 5s, 10s?
Because I think the teak says 1, 2,
2,
5s,
5,
and 10s.
or 10s.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
The specificity.
Yes.
So we will explain that the length of a bar in a bar graph, or the number of pictures in a pictograph, represents the number of data points for a given category.
Okay.
And then Then I think we do 2.10C,
Write and
the
solve.
write and solve.
Do they have to generate a word problem on this one?
I don't believe so.
They did come up with a new one right here. It says using the data in the pictograph, create a
Oh.
story. So
Oh yeah,
They
we
do.
did change it.
that can be solved using addition or subtraction.
So they do have to write.
Mm-hmm. A story problem.
So we
So they'll
need
have to type it.
Uh-huh. I do remember that. We will.
We'll need to pick a day too, which we might soon for pop words.
Yeah, we pulled those out yesterday, so we were
Mhm.
looking at what tells you the operation on the
Or
word
just be
problem.
talking about it as we're teaching
That's
them.
what I did. Is
Okay.
I was just talking about it as I was teaching it.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Like really, whenever I read that word problem, like, well, what are we doing?
what
How do you
tells you?
know?
Mhm.
Like, kind of thing.
Yeah. I want to make an anchor chart.
We started one
One step
a couple days ago.
word problems involving addition and or subtraction.
Using data from a pictograph and bar graph.
Using data from a pictograph. For us to, and like, if we're gonna split it into more than one day,
And
I'd
just
say
focus on the
using data
pictograph.
from a pictograph and then
Mhm.
using data from a bar graph. Since we have so many days, apparently.
Mm-hmm.
That's nice.
Yeah.
So we got that one, and then 2.10D, we will
Draw
draw
conclusions.
conclusions and make predictions from information in a graph. That's gonna like really blow their minds that we're using those words
In math.
Yeah.
Because like
Uh-huh.
we've made conclusion,
Uh-huh.
In reading.
and made predictions, and
Mm-hmm.
and then now here we are putting it in math terms. And
Right.
they're gonna be like, whoa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does that hits all of our teaks, right?
Mhm.
Yes.
Did we split it up well enough? I think like, up to 4 categories. So I think I think bar graph needs to be its own day, pictograph needs to be its own day.
Mm-hmm.
And then cause see, like the specificity of, I love that word. It's fun to say. But like the specificity of 2.10B is organize a collection of data. The specificity is the characteristics of a pictograph. So do we want to do a day of the characteristics of a pictograph? Like,
Mm-hmm.
this is what you're gonna see. Here's the key. We have to look at this part.
Oh, yeah, like the titles, the
Titles,
labels.
subtitles, labels, representation of the data, the key.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yeah.
can be placed in a horizontal or vertical, linear alignment, arrangement. Partial picture or symbol represents the fractional value of the whole picture. I'm not going to use those words,
yeah.
but
Right.
Yeah.
in which we talked about on the number lines, like half of 10 is going to be 5.
Mm-hmm.
So half of 10 on our pictograph is going to be 5. So
Mhm.
that should be a connection that they have.
Yeah.
Organize. So maybe we could even do like, I will describe the characteristics of a pictograph.
Mm-hmm. That sounds good.
And then it'll still be the same we will, because it's that same teak.
Mm-hmm.
But then, so after we describe the characteristics,
Is that still them looking at the data and seeing that the bar, or, well, I guess pictograph, does that include counting it? Not yet. Like, using the key to count?
I feel like, yeah. I mean, I wish Teak's resource would just put these in order for us. Like,
know.
teach this first.
Yes.
Mhm.
Kids need to understand, like, prerequisite.
Exactly.
Like, they need to understand this first, and then
Then move to
Mhm.
this.
then they can do this.
Mhm. So
But
did
they don't, so we have to decide that. So
Did-
I'm thinking, like, the organize a collection of data using pictographs. So, like, we can describe the data, and then, like, I always like having them make their own pictographs
Me-
with, like, Skittles or
Mhm.
Fruit Loops
Yeah.
or whatever.
and then count?
Stickers,
Yeah,
And then counting it or whatever.
yeah. We
To
had
try
some.
to, like, tie that into, like, real world and have them some applications. So, like, if we did, like, 3 days of pictographs, so we
Mhm.
could do, like, characteristics, create a pictograph, and then maybe even, like, solve the word, like, write and solve word problems.
Okay.
And then do bar graph.
Do
And
the
then
same
do
thing.
characteristics of bar graph,
graph,
create
same
a
thing.
bar graph,
Write
word
a.
problems of bar graph. Like, write a word problem.
Mhm.
And then we could do like the explain, like, so we've
Taught them both.
taught them, they've done it, now you need to be able to explain that you have one sticker because there was only one Fruit Loop or whatever, and be able to explain that.
Mhm. That sounds good.
And then we could do more word problems, because all of this is solving word problems,
yeah.
that whole assessment, you know?
Right.
So they're gonna need more of that.
Practice. Knowing what to do.
So I will
Create.
a pictograph after collecting data.
That works.
And then the we will be the same, but then the I will be would the we will be the same, because it would be the solve word problems, wouldn't it?
So would it be analyze? Well, are they having to solve the word problem after analyzing the data?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep, it is. So the we will be solve one step work, because we're not
Right.
writing them yet. We're just gonna solve them.
Right.
Or do we want to write and solve? And, like, that's when we can really teach them, like, this is what the word problem should look like.
Oh, yeah. We can
and then
use
just have them
one.
solve it.
We could solve what it says, and then have them write it a different way. Like if it says how many more bananas than oranges are in the fruit basket, solve that? Then how else could it have been asked?
Yeah.
How many
And
fewer?
and them say how many is there all together,
Yeah,
and like
have them change,
use
just
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then rewrite it either using a different strategy, like if it has us subtract, then we could write one to add, or since it says banana and oranges, we could have them do apples and oranges.
So I will analyze questions.
I will analyze data and solve.
Analyze data to solve word problems and
Create.
rewrite
Mhm.
or write a new question for the graph.
Yeah, because they could even, like, we could do it whole group, and then we could even have them write their own and have, like, somebody at their table solve it.
Yeah,
Or,
if they can read it.
true.
But yes.
Well, the
yeah.
words are all here, so yeah, that would, then that's less thinking, then they don't have to create one out of nowhere, they can just use the data already given.
Yes, I like that. So then we'll go to 3 days. We'll switch from pictograph to bar graph. So we'll organize using
Data using bar graphs.
bar graphs. I will describe the characteristics of a bar graph. And then we'll organize the collection. So have them create a bar graph with
Mm-hmm. I feel like the kids liked doing this last year too.
Yeah.
create a bar graph after collecting data. And then we'll do write and solve one-step problems. And then I didn't even put anything. I didn't
Just
put,
the graph.
I guess I could say I analyze data on a pictograph. Just so we're more specific,
Mm-hmm.
like we were supposed to be.
Yes.
Analyze data on a bar graph to solve. And so then day 7, after all of that, we can do the explain. So like you've learned the pictographs, you've learned the bar graphs, now explain it to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Or, explain it to me, or explain it to
Right.
somebody who's not in our class, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
For them to be able to do it,
Mm-hmm.
Do we want to just like, what would the I will be? Because I feel like that would be.
I will use the data given to explain
The data given. That's what it means.
what the bar represents, which
Okay.
each.
I will use the data given to explain the meaning of each bar or picture.
Yeah.
I feel like, because it needs to be kid friendly.
Right.
So sometimes I feel like we get too wordy.
Mm-hmm.
But they want us to be specific, so then I'm confused.
Right.
Not
I feel like the
confused, but,
teak itself, the we will, can be the more confused, like the tiki part, and then the I will be more kid friendly.
So then I think we should do the rest of the day, the rest of this week, just solving word
Practice question, like,
problems.
okay,
like
yeah.
just solving word problems.
Mm-hmm.
And writing. Solving and writing word problems. Solving and writing word problems.
Yeah.
Just because I think that they're going to need lots of practice. I mean, like I said before, that's the whole test is solving word problems.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So.
And the extension to all those can have them be rewrited another way. And we can just keep spiraling that in if we want.
And we can also, like, you talking about the extension, that scaffold is we can write it and then have them copy it and solve it.
Yeah.
Copy it and solve it for those ones that are going to need
support.
So write and solve one-step problems. I will analyze data and analyze data to write and solve word problems.
Mm-hmm.
Using data from a bar graph, and I'm gonna add or pictograph, so that way we can just do whatever. Whichever we find.
Which we already have some created from last year.
Lots of them created. And I don't think it would be hard to find other ones either.
Mm-hmm.
And so that gets this teak, and we need write and draw conclusions and make predictions.
Okay.
So we will draw conclusions and make predictions from information in a graph. I will look for patterns
There we go.
in graphs to make a prediction of what could happen next.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like, that's really what we're doing, like, looking for that pattern,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
If this pattern continues.
What's the-
Yeah. Because that,
What's the specificity?
I feel like that ice cream cone one was hard because they had to do both. They had to know the key and
You'll step outside of your office.
they had to know the key and do the pattern.
Yeah.
Or they can do the pattern, but they have to make sure they solve it correctly using the key.
Oh, so like that double,
Yeah, number
It's not
9.
just one.
kind of almost like the double whammy of, like, do you know your characteristics of a pictograph
And
like what
can
the key
you?
says, and then be able to solve it by looking for a pattern.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do we want to do the draw conclusions before we start with word problems then? Or solving more word problems? Because
Yeah,
that kind of goes to
The
like, you gotta-
characteristics.
yeah,
Yeah.
we can just switch these.
Okay.
I'll just scoot this one down to here and just put this one up
Okay.
in the front. Whoa. Almost as like this could be a question that you see.
Uh-huh.
And then here, now let's solve lots of word problems.
Mm-hmm.
And then we could throw
Some of
those
those
in there
in.
too.
And then I remember last year on the fly, I think, just spiraling it in. Remember after they collected data, we were like, because I remember you asking how many of mine picked line, or like what animal mine picked to see
Oh,
if we were to
yes.
ask another class.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, I do
I do
remember
remember
that
that, yeah.
because it was. I remember
Mm-hmm.
now. And then
Just having a conversation about that, not making it the focus.
Yes, just having the conversation that our data was different.
Mm-hmm.
And then that gets everything, so we could review and test and have a few extra days
Yeah.
if needed.
Take 2 days to review.
We will review previous taught knowledge. I will use knowledge to answer questions about pictographs and bar graphs. Is that good?
Yeah.
You think? Okay.
And then is that right before Christmas? This last day.
Let me double check.
When we take the DCA.
Second grade math. September 21. Stop it. I'm trying to scoot over. We took this test, didn't we? Oh, I'm in the wrong. Hold on. Yes, that one is right before Christmas. We're supposed to do this test that we're teaching now, the 13th through the
Before Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
before Thanksgiving.
And we're doing that Wednesday, the 15th, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this one will.
This one will be the week before Christmas.
Mm-hmm. Like maybe the 14th, and then we could always review the 15th or go over it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Review for the.
We're in school that whole next week, though.
What? Oh yeah. Oh, I was looking a week before. Yeah, so we've got until like the 21st. We can test.
Well,
then.
I think the test is hold on, the 11th through the 15th.
Okay. Yeah.
So we
that's
can
what
get
I was
it done
Early.
early, and then
Mhm.
spend that week before that,
Our last week.
with like spiraling that place value
Yes.
stuff that they're struggling with.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Perfect.